Well, hey everybody, here again with another update on Florence, just in case you missed what's going on, what went on at the 5 o'clock update. No new information if you watched that one, so if you did, well, thanks for joining again, but this is going to be pretty similar to that, and I'll keep it a little bit shorter. We're just giving you guys the latest info. Again, no need to be really concerned here along the Georgia coast. It does look like very big rainfall totals heading for North Carolina, some over a foot going into Virginia, but we're getting more data, and of course as we get more data the forecast becomes more accurate. The landfall likely going to be late Thursday or overnight, early Friday morning. Just wanted to show you what's going on here. The hurricane hunters took off from Bermuda, got some upper air sampling, actually got a little bit into the storm with this, and they're heading back to the United States here. Another flight be going out here shortly, and we'll get some more info. So that's just giving you a little scope of what's going on here with Florence, letting a few more people join on in. And it's a pretty wide storm. It's not the widest of storms. Let me pause it, and you can see these bands are, I mean, it's a massive storm, so a lot of people at least going to see cloud cover from this whenever it does reach closer to land. But let me give you the latest. That's why you guys are tuned in, not to look at the airplane going through the storm here. So this is what's going on with Florence, and again, this is not going to be much different than the update that I had on here at 5 o'clock, but I wanted to give you guys another resource. Maybe if you missed it earlier or you wanted to clarify some info, I'm here for you guys. So this storm here, still at 85-mile-an-hour sustained winds, gust a little bit higher than that. Not seeing a super defined eye yet. That's going to change. Wait till you see these satellite images coming out on Monday. This is quickly going to become a major hurricane, Category 3 status. It makes it a major hurricane by 2 o'clock on Monday. So this is going to be very rapid intensification here. And I am looking at you guys, I'm looking at what you guys are posting on Facebook as well. So if you guys have direct questions that I do miss, feel free to message me on my Facebook page, which should be tagged in this Facebook post, if you guys are watching on Facebook, that is. But just wanted to show you again what's going to go on with this. It's going to move very slowly here overnight, pick up a little forward speed as it goes the next couple of days, and then become a Category 4 hurricane. There's a very slim chance this becomes Category 5, likely just going to be Category 4 offshore, but sustained wind of 150 miles an hour there Wednesday afternoon. This is why it has a lot of people's attention, right? Because it's going to be high impact depending on where this makes landfall. Again, this is not different than the 5 o'clock digital update that we had, but it does show that this definitely widens out by the end of the week. Also notice the line here much smaller than previous timing lines. That's not good for wherever this makes landfall and the areas around it, because the rain is going to produce very dangerous flooding, very dangerous flooding. I mean, we're talking about potentially over a foot here, North Carolina going into Virginia. I mean, if you look at the forecast cone, if you really dive into it, this even goes up into portions of Tennessee, West Virginia. So largely this has shifted just a little bit to the north. But if you would go back and look at the four previous cones forecasts that have been out there, largely unchanged. Once we get in within 3 to 4 days, which we are right now, so much more data becomes available to us. A lot of that certainty goes up, and I realize people have to make decisions within that time frame, but right now there still is uncertainty of where this will make landfall. And I mentioned this earlier, but notice here there's even this far right side of the cone has it out in the ocean. So yes, it is within the realm of possibilities that there is a small chance that this stays offshore. Is that likely? No, but it is a chance nonetheless. So let's take a closer look here. I'm going to try to answer as many of your questions as possible without looking at them, but I will answer your questions if you have them. 4 days out, how accurate are these spaghetti plots without a very defined center of circulation? Not the best, but they are lining up here more so for North Carolina. What does that mean? All of this rain, once the storm gets over here, is going to just be pounding North Carolina and Virginia. I think that's going to be something that really gets lost in translation in a lot of these hurricane communicators that go out there, that people trying to communicate the threats here, is the rainfall. We talk about surge sometimes. That's a big deadly part of a hurricane. But this rain with this storm specifically, as it has the potential to stall out, or not so much stall out, but move very slowly, could have a lot of rain with this for North Carolina and Virginia. We all know what happened with Harvey last year in a similar situation, or not similar situation, but potentially high amounts of rainfall. It doesn't look like it would be anything like that, but it still doesn't look great for the folks in those high rain impact zones. Now, but you guys tuning in, because you probably want to know what's going on for Georgia, South Carolina, right? That's what we do here. And this is one of the latest renderings of potential tropical storm force wind, because a lot of people want to know if they need to board up, things like I've seen pictures on social media, people already boarding up, and that's being very cautious, and it's good to be out ahead of this, but at this point in time, still looking relatively doubtful to not likely that we even see tropical storm force wind here within 5 days. Notice how you get those oranges, the reds further off to the north and northern South Carolina and North Carolina. That's where I'm more concerned with the strongest wind right now. Right now, Sunday evening, 4 days out, this could change. Could this shift further north and potentially go more so out to sea? There's still a chance, but on the flip side of that, there's still a chance that it could shift a little further off to the south. So a lot of people asking for impacts, what to expect. Rainfall totals for the coastal empire and low country, talking about Hilton Head, Beaufort, not looking that impressive so far for this storm. What I do think that we can communicate to you guys as potential impacts right now would be this risk of rip currents, rough surf, potentially some beach erosion, and of course if you have those smaller boats, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, not going to be the days to go out and take those fishing trips, especially because 4 days out, this is going to change. If it potentially got a little bit closer to us, you don't want to be out there if those waves are going to be a little bit too high for you guys. So I just, you know, usually we don't do a weather update at 5 and 8. We did today, so this is just very similar to what we did earlier. And see, you might as well go and look at what some of you guys are talking about. Let's see here. And let's see, someone asked, is it going to miss and pass Savannah? And I'll focus on that, but also just talk about the whole Georgia coast and going into inland, of course, as well. And of course, we do cover a few counties in South Carolina. This is what you guys need to know about looking at the cone, is that the cone does not communicate impacts very well. This is where the center of that storm could go, but I showed you at the beginning of this how wide that storm is, you know, over 600 miles wide of just the cloud cover. Now the strong winds within that very concise, but with hurricanes you can get tropical storm force winds about 125 miles or so outside of that center of circulation. So you put this down 50 more miles, and some of our viewing area could potentially have a better chance of getting tropical storm force wind. So that's going to be something that we look at very closely here. It's important that we communicate to you guys that a little shift north or south is just a huge impact. Much like forecasting snow, when 33 degrees, not getting it, and then 32 you are. Small little differences in the forecast make high impact changes, and that's what we're going to be working on as a team to communicate best to you. 4 days out, do we have all the right answers at this time? No, we don't, but we do have a pretty good idea. There has been very good model consistency that this storm will go north of the Savannah and most of the low country area, and by the storm, the center of that circulation, but time for that to still change a little bit with the potential landfall now, not until Thursday afternoon. You know, we're still about 4 days out for this, and how many times have we been within 2 or 3 days and we see that there's a change? Now, I think that this storm it's not that it's more predictable, but you can also tell what's not going to happen with it. So that's why a lot of people are starting to talk about, well, North Carolina looks like they could take the potential landfall of this. And right now that is what it looks like, but it doesn't take much for it to shift a little bit. So that's something we're going to be watching. So if you guys live on the South Georgia coast there, actually looking like you could have not that big of an impact right now. Savannah, not that big of an impact right now either. But once you go into South Carolina, your chance of being impacted based on the current data that we have on Sunday evening goes up as you go further off to the north. I would be a little bit more concerned if you lived in Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, even north of Charleston. Those are areas where they should definitely be getting that hurricane plan ready to go in action for sure. For us, we're just on standby, not overly concerned right now. We're by no means out of the woods just yet, but there are places further north of the Georgia coast and the low country coast that I'm more concerned with at this time. And it's not just going to be the wind. I think the wind steals the show because that's how this hurricane's classified based on its wind speeds. But I really think that the potentially deadly side of Florence will be the potentially prolonged flooding after it makes landfall. And that's something that we'll be watching Thursday, Friday, even into next weekend for areas well off to our north. So I know that a lot of you guys tuning in, I've probably repeated myself a lot, and that might annoy you, but this is very similar to what we had at 5. My advice to you as we go to this evening, I'm going to put out a push alert on the WTOC weather app whenever we get the 11 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center. Something that just I think is kind of cool is that I have been in contact with the hurricane hunters from Lakeland, Florida, and I'm actually trying to get out on one of these flights Tuesday so that I can do a story on showing you guys why flying a plane over a hurricane is important and how we collect scientific data for that. So that would be something interesting to look forward to later on this week for me if it happens, and for you guys, because I want to communicate that to you so that you guys know how much science actually does go into these forecasts. So if you just joined in, you know, with Florence, I don't feel like we're doing too much with this, but I also don't want you guys to feel like you need to be worried about it either. Not hyping this up at all for the Georgia coast or the low country. But that being said, this does still have the potential to shift within the next 4 days because we're 4 days out. Yes, model guidance has been very consistent that it's going to go north of our area, but just imagine if it's wrong and we get a little bit closer to us. We need to be not letting our guard down just yet, but again, not be worried at the same time. If you zoom in here on this, the cone, which I don't really advise you to do, but Savannah's not even in it right now. So that does not mean you won't feel the impacts because we could, but with the storm motion here, we actually could have the wind coming from the northwest, meaning it would be blowing toward the ocean, and that actually could lower our rain chances. And that's really what it looks like is going to happen right now. So I don't want you guys to think that we're hyping this up, but this is going to be a potentially historic storm for wherever it would make landfall. So I'm going to end it with this here. We have First Alert Hurricane Center that you guys can find on our website, and that's just a resource for you guys if you ever wanted to see what's going on when we're not doing a digital update or in a newscast. Also, you see on the side there where it says meet the team, Dave, Jamie, Cutter, Ron, and myself, we have our Facebook, Twitter, and email icons all in there, so you guys can always shoot us a message if you have specific questions that we don't address, because again, we're here for you guys. I'm not here to see myself talking. I need to get this forecast out to you guys. So we've got this all set up in case we do get a potential impact from here. You could see the cone. You can click on it to make it larger, potential max wind speeds coming our way, wave heights. Right now, we're really not looking at anything strong. A lot of this is very useful a couple of days before a potential impact. And I mean, even talking about tomorrow, I feel like we haven't talked about the forecasts just locally as much lately because we are kind of stuck in the same pattern where we're going to have those afternoon showers and thunderstorms. We did today. We had 2 flood warnings today as well. Wayne County, Jessup, you guys got a lot of rain, and finally these showers beginning to weaken for you guys. Got drenched, over 2.5 inches of rain down there. But another setup like this potential for us tomorrow rain-wise. Cutter Martin's going to be in early in the morning. Again, if you guys are going to be up at 11, that's when the next update comes out. Usually comes out a little bit before 11, so I'm going to do my best to get that pushed out either during or right before the 11 o'clock newscast. And then there's going to be another update in the morning, and Cutter will have you covered in the morning, as will Jamie and Dave in the afternoon. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your evening. If everything that I just jabbed on about here for the past however long it's been didn't answer any of your questions, then feel free to shoot me a message, and I hope you have a good rest of your evening.